should probably be sufficient to get us to alert level 1, if that's the plan of the Metro Manila mayors.
Infectious diseases specialist Dr. Ron Jean Solante agrees the region may be ready for more relaxed rules by March, but he cautions the vaccination drive should still push through and the wearing of masks should remain mandatory.
More people vaccinated, less people will be getting the infection. It's not practical that if we will be taking off, we will include the vulnerable population. I would rather recommend that even if the cases are going down, until such time that there's still a community transmission, even how low the numbers is, there's still a possibility that the vulnerable population will be affected.
In a forum, businessmen said they support a possible downgrade of the alert level in the capital region. And once that happens, Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry President George Barcelon says more people will be working and the government has to make sure there is enough public transportation. Metro Manila mayors are set to meet tomorrow to discuss the possibility of the region easing to alert level 1. World headlines now as Hong Kong continues to battle its latest surge in COVID infections. A health expert there warns the region may see, quote, very large number of deaths in March. Dr. Karen Greppin of the University of Hong Kong School of Public Health explains the trend suggests Hong Kong might exceed its hospital capacity for severe cases very soon. The Philippine government has identified a number of cases among Filipino workers there. It's also warning Hong Kong employers against firing COVID-infected Filipino employees. Tristan Odalo reports.
The Philippine government is extending the necessary financial relief and possible legal assistance for overseas Filipino workers affected by the COVID-19 surge in Hong Kong. Consul General Rally Tejada says the priority is to make sure the workers are safe. The Consulate General will also launch an investigation on Filipinos allegedly fired or whose contracts were terminated after catching the virus. Philippine officials say getting COVID-19 is insufficient grounds for termination based on Hong Kong laws. Employers found guilty may face a fine of up to $100,000. An OFW in Hong Kong for 17 years, Joyce Alfonso says it may be challenging to follow the strict measures but they have to comply and stay at home.
Ingat naman, masyado lang silang sa mga helper ngayon dito dahil nga di ba pag holiday kasi marami talagang lumalabas. Pero ganoon din naman, pag work day namin, araw-araw naman kami pumupunta sa palengke.
Malacanang says the labor office has given food packs, hygiene kits, and power banks to affected workers. Officials are also working with a non-government organization to provide an isolation facility for sick workers. But for OFW Group United Filipinos in Hong Kong, the government needs to do more to protect the welfare of OFWs.
We are actually calling the government, Hong Kong government and the sending government not to deprive day offs to the migrant domestic workers. For us, staying home means we have to work because that is our workplace. There should be enough time for rest.
Groups of migrant workers are also appealing to the Hong Kong government of fair treatment to sick domestic workers. They also ask for enough time to rest so that they can recover and financial help and equal access to health-related information. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
Malacanang says it has reached out to the European Union Parliament after it accused the political body of, quote, coloring perceptions of Filipino voters. Acting presidential spokesman Carlo Nograles reiterates they are willing to cooperate with the European Union to address their concerns. This after the Parliament adopted a resolution against reported human rights abuses under the Duterte administration. Nograles echoed Trade Chief Ramon Lopez's sentiment that such allegations are fake news and expressed confidence that the EU will not turn its back on the marginalized sectors. The Foreign Affairs Department earlier regarded the resolution as unfair and baseless. The Parliament is one of the lawmaking institutions under the EU, but the final say lies with the Union. The European Union, meanwhile, supporting the latest attempt to arrange talks between the United States and Russia. U.S. President Joe Biden has agreed in principle to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin if Russia does not invade Ukraine. The summit, brokered by France, will follow a meeting between U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the Russian Foreign Minister on February 24th. The U.S. reiterates it is ready for diplomacy even if Russia continues to prepare for a full-scale assault. CNN has obtained a copy of the letter sent by the U.S. to the United Nations, stating Russia has been identifying Ukrainians, quote, to be killed or sent to camps, unquote. The Philippine embassy in Poland has sent a consular team to provide immediate assistance to Filipino nationals in Lviv, Ukraine. Up ahead on Newsnight, one major transport group warns it might hold a strike if the minimum fare is not increased amid rising oil prices. And despite backlash, authorities defend the arrest of a doctor accused of being a communist leader. This is CNN Philippines. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Pump prices have been going up for 8 consecutive weeks. And as Amor Santos reports, a group may be forced to stage a transport strike if the government doesn't heed its call for a fare increase.
Wala na kami may kita namin dahil napupunta lang talaga sa krudo. Tsaga-tsaga na lang para lang mabiling bigas.
Kung hindi tataasan ang diesel, kahit di magtaas ng pamasahe.
These jeepney drivers are calling for a fare increase as the rise in fuel prices continues unabated. The LTFRB held a dialogue with some transport groups last week. One Utak, Pasang Mazda, Alto DAP, and Acto want a 5 peso increase in the minimum fare for jeepneys in Metro Manila, Central Luzon, and Calabarzon. Ahead of the hearing on March 8, transport leaders plead for a 1 peso adjustment in the meantime.
I-grant nyo na yung 10 piso sapagkat napakabigat na ng halaga ng diesel ngayon.
But the group Liga ng Transportasyon at Operators sa Pilipinas or LTOP says the government has not paid attention to an earlier petition they filed in October. It seeks a provisional 2 peso fare increase due to the impact of COVID-19, inflation, and the high fuel prices. LTOP warns they might be forced to stage a transport strike, where thousands of jeepney and UV Express drivers will protest not just the pending petition, but also the policies plaguing the transport sector.
Ako po ay hindi ho nananakot. Ayaw namin po yun dahil gusto namin sa lamesa kami mag-usap kung kami ay bigyan nila ng importansya. Laglag na po kami dahil sa taas ng krudo, gasolina, langis, pamalingki, lahat po.
The LTFRB says it's open to holding a separate dialogue with LTOP. It also reminded operators that cessation of public service is a ground for the suspension or revocation of their franchise.
We are prepared to respond to any transport strikes po ng grupo nila. Hindi naman sa minamaliit po natin yung strength nila, pero the government should not be made as a hostage.
Other transport groups assure they won't go on strike.
Wala kaming planong mag-transport strike sapagkat nagkausap na kami ni Chairman Belgra, Chairman ng LTFRB last week.
Meanwhile, commuters say they can adjust if disruptions to public transport cannot be avoided.
Hindi naman po namin sila masisisi kung magtataas sila ng price.
Maghahanap na lang ng alternatibong sasakyan, ganon. Ganon pa para makapasok rin sa trabaho kasi hindi rin po pwedeng tumigil sa pagtatrabaho eh.
Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Face shields are no longer required in the upcoming polls in areas under Alert Level 3 or lower. That's according to the Commission on Elections' new normal manual in line with the IATF's guidelines. The use of face shields is voluntary except in hospitals and areas under Alert Level 4 or higher. The face mask mandate remains, as well as 1 meter physical distancing and other minimum health protocols. Voters are also required to go through a temperature check before entry. Those found to have body temperatures higher than 37.5 degrees Celsius will be led to an isolation polling place as a precaution against COVID-19. Marshals will be on standby while regular disinfection of shared marking pens and waiting areas will be carried out. The country's largest labor group backs the tandem of former Senator Bongbong Marcos and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte. The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines says the choice to support Marcos and Duterte was a majority decision of workers across the country based on a series of online and face-to-face consultations that began late last year. Vice President Leni Robredo gets the endorsement of former senators and government officials. Former Senators Rodolfo Biazon, Ramon Magsaysay Jr., Sergio Osmeña III, and Wigberto Tañada were among those who signed a joint statement in support of Robredo. They say Robredo has demonstrated the qualities needed in the country's next top leader in the 6 years of her vice presidency, such as being action-oriented, inclusive, and decisive. Two of the former senators who signed the statement previously expressed support for different candidates. Last year, Biazon said Senator Ping Lacson can solve the country's problems, while Osmeña said he would help Manila Mayor Isko Moreno with his campaign. Senator Manny Pacquiao is against a proposal to ban sari-sari stores from selling over-the-counter drugs. He argues not all communities have quick access to drugstores. Senator Ping Lacson and his running mate, Senate President Tito Soto, met with rice and vegetable farmers in Nueva Ecija, where they called for a review of the controversial Rice Tarification Act. Lacson and Soto had voted for the passage of the measure, which President Duterte signed in 2019. But the tandem says the law is not keeping up with its promise of lowering rice prices and fast-tracking the modernization of the agriculture sector. Isko Moreno vows to support the Bangsamoro government if he becomes president. He says he will strictly adhere to the provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law to achieve long-lasting peace in Mindanao. And labor leader Leody de Guzman called for reforms to recognize housing as a right and to push for urban land reform. He says these measures are needed to stop the demolition of communities and land ownership battles with real estate developers. Now, what qualities are you looking for in the next president? We asked some of you. Here are your voices.
Siyempre, kailangan nandyan yung mapagkakatiwalaan, yung alam niya kung ano yung dapat gawin sa bansa natin sa mga problemang kinakaharap ng bansa natin, dahil sa pandemya, sa corruption, siyempre.
Yung marunong siyang kumilala ng yung mga dapat gawin na tama sa bansa natin.
Yung malinis yung track record, yung mas makikita nating reliable kumpara sa other candidates.
Syempre yung bilis kilos talaga. Yung talagang may plataforma talaga siya sa bansa na nakikita namin talaga na magagawa talaga niya. Hindi lang sa sinasabi lang na kaya niyang gawin, pero yung talagang may nagagawa talaga.
Pare-parehas lang lahat sila ng sinasabi na ganun. Siguro ang hinahanap ko sa susunod na presidente ng Pilipinas ay yung talagang makakatulong sa pag-unlad ng bansa natin. Yun lang naman pinakamahalaga.
For the first time this election season, we will see almost all presidential candidates share one stage for a much-awaited in-person debate. 9 out of 10 candidates are joining the CNN Philippines presidential debate on February 27, Sunday, at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. They are Ernesto Abella, Leody de Guzman, Isko Moreno Domagoso, Norberto Gonzales, Ping Lacson, Faisal Mangundato, Jose Montemayor Jr., Manny Manny Pacquiao, and Lenny Robredo. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos declined our invitation for now due to a conflict of schedule, while his running mate Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte turned down our request for her to participate in the vice presidential debate, but gave no reason why. Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza will also not attend as he will undergo knee replacement surgery. 7 other candidates will participate in the VP debate this Saturday, February 26, also at UST. They are Walden Bello, Rizalito David, Manny Lopez, Willie Ong, Francis Pangilinan, Carlos Serapio, and Tito Soto. CNN Philippines remains committed to helping the Filipino people make informed decisions on May 9th. Again, join us on February 26th and the 27th at 5 in the afternoon, the vice presidential and presidential debates live at the University of Santo Tomas, only here on CNN Philippines.
Unfiltered, coming soon.
A CNN Philippines special presentation, The Filipino Votes 2022 Presidential Debate. The highlights now from the 6th CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum, where 2 former cabinet officials and a health advocate made their pitch to voters. Paige Javier reports.
3 senatorial candidates promising change in the health and agriculture sectors. Former Agrarian Reform Secretary John Castriciones, health advocate Dr. Mingita Padilla, and former Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol. Castriciones and Piñol want to amend laws related to their former departments.
This is one of the urgent measures that I will present to the Senate to call for the amendment of the rice tariffication law.
The comprehensive agrarian reform program is really flawed. I would see to it that we would be able to really come up with an improved version.
As for Padilla, she wants a guide for future health crisis.
I want a pandemic preparedness act so that we don't have to go through all of this again. We have to plan for the next pandemic.
One measure that's close to becoming a law is the SIM card registration bill. Castriciones and Padilla want tougher penalties in the bill, while Piñol believes the measure will be prone to abuse.
So ako nag-aalangan ako dyan kasi kailangan natin pag-aralan ng mabuti yan. Baka gamitin ito to encroach on people's privacy.
We strengthen the bill, or the law for that matter, by imposing heavier punishment for government officials or law enforcers that would have to violate the privacy of other persons.
We have to make sure that the service providers are also held liable if they sell our data.
The 3 were one in further studying the vape bill. They all want to change the provisions on lowering the age of access and disagree about the Trade Department overseeing regulation. If elected, Dr. Padilla vows to push for health reforms, while Castriciones and Piñol will prioritize agriculture and food security.
I want to amend the UHC and the PhilHealth laws because we need to really strengthen universal health care.
We have to correct the market system in this country. 3, I would like to correct the anti-agriculture and pro-importation policies passed by the previous Senate.
My priority legislation would be, of course, food sufficiency and, of course, improving our agricultural sector. The best way to do it is to give lands.
Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
A number of organizations were alarmed by the sudden arrest of community doctor Natividad Castro in San Juan City over the weekend, but authorities remain firm in their decision, saying they followed due process. Our Chrissy Di Matulak has that story.
Ako'y nagpapasalamat sa inyong lahat na patuloy na nagdadasal, nakikiramay at susubaybay sa aking kalagayan ngayon.
This was the message of community physician Dr. Natividad Castro while detained in Bayugan Police Headquarters in Agusan del Sur. A day before the video was taken, Castro, who is known to her patients as Dr. Nati, was arrested from her home in San Juan City. Issues of ignoring due process are now surrounding her arrest due to the alleged absence of a warrant. The Free Legal Assistance Group, or FLAG, which is assisting Castro's legal needs, questions the manner of Castro's arrest.
Person's residence is his castle, di ba? This was definitely violated because those who took her did not identify themselves, refused to give out their names. They were not even wearing any uniform to identify what unit they belong to. And that is why her siblings were frantic when this was taken, when this was performed.
The Interior Department is now defending the arrests and the police officers, citing that they performed their duties as agents of the court. The ILG also maintains that due process was observed and that the warrant of arrest was merely effected. According to Regional Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict spokesperson Chris Gonzalez, they have enough evidence to prove that Castro was involved in recruiting communist members and collecting funds for rebel groups.
Our prosecutors found probable cause, and the court also found probable cause to issue a warrant of arrest. Dr. Nati Castro is still considered innocent unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Oo, gumagawa po si Dr. Nati po ng isang project proposal para makakuha po kami ng mga pondo from European Union.
Former colleagues and classmates of Castro meantime were dismayed by what happened to the community doctor, saying this could send a chilling effect to medical students who want to serve the underprivileged.
If doctors are harassed for serving the people this way, this will discourage medical students from becoming primary health physicians.
Before settling down in her family's home in Metro Manila, Castro was formerly based in Agusan del Sur and Agusan del Norte since 1990. The Commission on Human Rights is also launching its own investigation on possible violations of due process and the arrests of Castro. Chrissy De Matulak, CNN Philippines.
We'll take a short break, and when we return, Team LeBron faced Team Durant in today's NBA All-Star Game. Find out which squad came out on top. And taking over Twitter trends, the game's impressive plays and a record-breaking feat for the king of threes. You're watching CNN Philippines. Welcome back to CNN Philippines. An exciting set of events at this year's NBA All-Star Game in Cleveland, Ohio, with Team LeBron capturing another win. The squad has not lost a single All-Star match since the format change in 2018. Remarkably, LeBron made the game-winning shot for a score of 163 to 160. Steph Curry had another stellar performance with a record-breaking 16 three-pointers in the game. Steph racked up 50 points and was named the 2022 Kobe Bryant NBA All-Star MVP. The intensity on the hardcourt has gotten netizens talking with hashtag NBA All-Stars. Steph and LeBron trending on Twitter today. Curry's barrage of triples became a hot topic, including this third-quarter shot. The star player was already headed towards the other side of the court before the ball passed through the hoop. Two legends can coexist, was what this netizen said of Team LeBron stars. Curry and James are known as friendly NBA rivals, having faced each other numerous times in the NBA regular season. Some also paid tribute to Kevin Durant, who had to miss his second straight All-Star game as a captain because of an injury. And now in entertainment, Justin Bieber has put on hold yet again his world tour. CNN's David Daniel has that and more on tonight's Hollywood Minute.
Justin Bieber's Justice World Tour is on pause after his team was hit by COVID-19. Bieber himself reportedly is among those who've tested positive. He postponed Sunday's Las Vegas concert until late June. The tour just began last Friday after a nearly 2-year delay due to the pandemic.
How fabulous to
When Helen Mirren receives the SAG Life Achievement Award this weekend, it'll be presented by a fellow Brit with almost as many awards as Mirren. Kate Winslet will do the honors at Sunday's ceremony. She's won 3 SAG awards so far, to Mirren's 5, and is up for another this year for Mayor of Easttown.
The Riddler is asking for you.
The Batman is getting a box office boost that even Spider-Man No Way Home did not, a Chinese release date. The Batman is scheduled to debut in China March 18th, 2 weeks after its U.S. release. It'll be the first Hollywood superhero movie to play in Chinese theaters since Wonder Woman 1984. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Naladingit ti agpasina, ngem lumagaan ti ladingit ken saem, no napintas ti panakataming dagiti minatay. No kinapintas ti serbisyo di pagsasaritaan kadagiti minatay, eksperto ti Crispin and Susing Funeral Homes, babaen ti dekalidad ken personalized funeral services, manipod ti panakabalsamar, panakaurnos ti mansayag, agingga ti panakaidulin ti minatay. Malaksid iti dekalidad da serbisyo, nakalaklakapay ti singirda, dayta ti serbisyo, ti Crispin and Susing Funeral Homes. Masarakan iti Barangay 1 and Ricarte, City of Batac, Ilocos Norte. Dayain laeng ti Ricarte Park. Wenno tumawag iti Globe number 0995-951-1711. Ken ti Smart number 0947-808-0529. Ken ti landline da 077-600-0829. Crispin and Susing Funeral Homes. The Crispin and Susing Funeral Homes katagaw-awaten ti press service in cash or installment basis. Para tinadong impormasyon, tumawag lang iti 077-600-0829, 0995-951-1711, 0947-808-0529.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo RONDA, DZRL Batac, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
The onset of the cold Burr months and the long preparation leading to Christmas is something we all look forward to. However, it also comes with some illnesses that are common this time of year, and allergic rhinitis is one of them. It's an allergy-related inflammation of your nasal passages, your throat, and sometimes even your eyes. And while it's not contagious, sneezing due to the allergic reactions and immune responses can spread germs and put other people at risk of other diseases. Today, we'll learn more about the symptoms of allergic rhinitis, how to spot them, and what to do with regards to treatment as well as prevention. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're here to build a healthier future for you. Now, allergic rhinitis is triggered by allergens, and allergens can be found in so many things: pollen, mold, cockroaches, insects, particles or flakes from skin from certain animals. That's why it's very important for any individual to understand what causes this, what triggers this condition. Now let's welcome our guests. Joining us is Dr. Maria Lourdes Enicilia. She is an ENT head and neck surgeon from Medical Center Taguig and St. Luke's Medical Center. Also with us is Dr. Fatima Joanna Santos Ocampo. She's a pediatric and adult allergist from the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Now, for those with allergic rhinitis, the symptoms may be similar to other allergic reactions. I'll start first with Dr. Mari. Can we discuss what some of the common symptoms of someone who has allergic rhinitis are?
So with allergic rhinitis, rhinitis meaning nasal symptoms. So the usual nasal symptoms would be sneezing, and it's usually violent, like sunod-sunod na pagbahing. So several sneezes, one after the other. And you usually have watery nasal discharge, so yung matubig na sipon, di siya malapot, di siya makulay, it's usually very clear, and then nasal blockage. And sometimes the nose is very itchy, even the eyes. And for children, sometimes they cough also. And very classic with this, if you're talking about allergic rhinitis, is there's no fever.
Whenever they find these types of symptoms, what should they think about, Dr. Mari? Should they start thinking first that this is a viral type of illness, or is it more common that this could be an allergic type of reaction?
Well, for most of the patients with allergic rhinitis, you might have noticed already happening even when you were very young. So you sort of recognize it already. And again, if there's no fever or you're feeling na magkakasakit, like your body pains, joint pains, then you would think more it's allergic rhinitis. And again, if there's a pattern, and then it will just go away. But if it's the symptoms are lasting the whole day, several days, and the mucus is becoming thick, and you feel bad, or there's fever, then it might already be like a viral cold, or even a bacterial nasal problem. So then you might need to consult your doctor.
When it comes to other related factors that could increase the chance of someone having allergic rhinitis, what could some of the more common things be, Dr. Mari?
If your parents, you have relatives, your siblings also have allergic rhinitis, you're more at risk for this. But it's also environmental that they found over the years. There's also what we call a hygiene hypothesis. So they found that those who actually were exposed to a lot of different infections, were playing outside when they were kids, they tended to have a better immune condition, and they did not have the allergic rhinitis. They did not develop it, unlike those who weren't really exposed during childhood. So that's what. And also your exposure to pollution, actually diesel fumes, they found that this can actually make you develop allergic rhinitis. So that's also a factor.
Now, Dr. Fatima, when it comes to this, yung environment natin, air pollution is increasing, the smoke is increasing from vehicles, lalo na dito sa Metro Manila. Are these surefire triggers, especially for someone who has allergic rhinitis?
Actually, it's a global thing. No, it's this pollution that's over the years, so coming from fossil fuels and all that, has actually created, of course, what we all know is climate change. And what does it mean? Actually, that means that there is a real elevation. One of the things that's concerning is that the temperature, the environmental temperature has actually increased. No? These are irritants. They're not really allergens, but they're irritants. They really affect the functioning of our airway. They make them very responsive, yung umiipit, ganyan, kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng asthma attacks, no? And the same thing happens in the upper airway. It affects the lining of the upper airways, masyadong nai-irritate. Kaya, yes, you'll have more of the sneezing, the runny nose, at saka yung congestion.
Now, I'd like to ask Dr. Mari, right now, papunta na tayo sa Burr months, marami tayong mga changes in temperature, changes in weather. I'm sure a lot of our viewers do feel some of the symptoms coming from that. Nasal congestion, some irritation. Is this allergic rhinitis? How can we explain this better to our viewers?
So at this time of the year, with more moisture in the air, You can have more of the mold, more of the dust mites, and with wind, air current, sometimes the pollen, there's more pollen coming down or going around you. So yes, most patients will have more severe symptoms this time of year.
Now, Dr. Joni, what are some of the complications naman that can arise with allergic rhinitis that isn't identified or isn't managed effectively?
People with allergic rhinitis tend have more chances also to have asthma, by the way, allergic asthma. So I hope people would realize na if your allergic rhinitis is not controlled, it can actually trigger your asthma. So when you have asthma, you have to bear in mind na baka meron akong allergic rhinitis na hindi na-address.
Okay.
So that's very important. Ha? And then also other things, for example, yung pagkakaroon ng sinusitis, no? This is an inflammation of the lining of the sinuses, no? Dito sa loob ng upper airway, sa kaloob-looban. So you can have that. And that could really be very bad, more severe yung mga symptoms mo. And you can also have parang bacteria added to it. So you can have an infectious rhinitis, sinusitis tuloy, no?
Meron bang certain levels ang allergic rhinitis when it comes to its severity? Meaning, are there people who have allergic rhinitis pero tinitiis lang nila kasi nakakayanan naman nila? What can you say about people who are not getting treatment even in the mild forms?
You can have complications pag pinabayaan. So how do you know if you need to see a doctor? I usually say if you're having your symptoms every day or almost every day, like 4 times a week, and it's every week, and it lasts more than 1 hour. Now it's half the morning or even the whole day, and you can't even go out without you having a handkerchief or your tissue paper, and you can't play sports, you can't sleep well. So even though natitiis nyo po yun, kung ganun yung effect sa inyo, then it's something that needs to be controlled, and you have to see a doctor to avoid the complications.
Up next, we'll talk more about the causes of allergic rhinitis and how you can control or prevent them. We're your connection to healthcare. You're watching Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. External factors can cause your allergies, and these allergens or irritants can vary from pollution to dust to pollen, among other things. Now we'll go more in depth with the allergens that can be found inside your home and how you can control and prevent any symptoms of allergic rhinitis. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're together in health. Now, some plants make a fine particle called pollen that's light enough to travel through the air, and this is how these plants grow and reproduce. But inhaling this can be a trigger to an allergic reaction, especially in a tropical country like ours, where plant life is very abundant, even indoors. Now, Dr. Joni, how can pollen, specific pollen, actually be a trigger for allergic rhinitis?
Pollens come from plants, any so weeds or grasses, mga trees, no? But they differ in character, in size, no? So in general, what we think of as allergenic are the ones that are very light, very tiny, no? Such that they can float. They can be carried by the wind, actually up to 400 miles, no? Depende sa wind, no? And of course, they can also enter our system better. So nakakapasok, nalalanghap mo siya. So those are usually the pollens that are responsible for allergies.
Dr. Mari, can you give us some tips on how to keep our homes pollen-free, or for that matter, if I have a pollen allergy, what is the best thing for me to do?
If you've noticed that with your indoor plants, you're having more attacks, so maybe you need to change the plants that you have. Again, not every plant is allergenic. It's usually the ones that shed, a very small seeds or light flowering plants. Actually, we've seen less allergy for a lot of patients because they've been staying indoors, and when they go outdoors, they wear a mask. So that's actually one protection if you're particularly allergic to pollen, especially when it's very windy or there's thunderstorms, high wind rates. You would expect more pollen in the air. So actually using our masks have protected us.
Dr. Mari, when it comes to this, dust mites, these are very small bugs in someone's house. It can't be seen by the naked eye, but it can cause an allergic reaction for people. Is there anything that you could suggest for our viewers to potentially identify if they do have a dust mite allergy? Are there specific symptoms that they could watch out for, certain scenarios?
Dust mites are your most common allergens and very classic upon waking. When you wake up, you haven't even stood up, you haven't gone anywhere, you're sneezing, you have runny nose, you have nasal blockage. Most likely you're allergic to dust mites because the dust mites are in your mattress and pillows. And if you live in the Philippines, most likely you have dust mites in your mattress and pillows. That's accepted because they like the humid environment. So if you want to protect yourself from dust mites, there are dust mite covers. But remember, again, there's a limitation to their efficacy. Over time, it's not as effective, so you might need to change. And then they are killed by heat. So you just need to wash your beddings in warm water regularly. But even the mattress and pillows, ideally, you expose them to direct sunlight or heat so that you can also kill the dust mites that are there.
Dr. Johnny, can I ask you naman, meron bang difference ang dust mites and bed bugs? Because a lot of our viewers might confuse the two.
Bed bugs are larger than dust mites, no? Bed bugs you can actually see, no, easily. And dust mites are microscopic. For you to really see them, you really need a microscope, no, to see these creatures. They really like to go where the people lie down, they sleep, no? Similarly, the bed bugs also would like to go there. But then the bed bugs also would like to stay in your mga damit, yung mga seams ng mga folds sa mga damit, no? Yung mga ganyan sa materials. Then, you can maybe see them. The bed bugs will not cause allergic rhinitis. However, there are people who can be sensitive to bed bugs, mind you, pero sa kagat nila, no? Tsaka it's the skin, no? So you would see a pattern of rash na pwede mo sabihin, ay, yan, bed bug yan.
Dr. Mari, let's talk about molds. A lot of people may discount this, don't really think about this as something really dangerous, but they can lead to some really serious complications with someone's body.
We're very lucky in the Philippines. We have a lot of mold and dust mites. So they love the humid environment that we have. So we have to find ways also to limit our exposure to the mold because they really cause a lot of allergies. You have to remove any damp areas in your bathroom. You clean, you wipe down. Make sure there's the curtains, they tend to develop mold, damp clothes inside the closet. So you have to minimize these damp areas and decrease the humidity to less than 50% to lessen both the dust mites and the mold.
Dr. Joni, let's talk about pets. And are pets really the cause of a lot of allergic symptoms? How can true pet lovers deal with this? What can they do?
Well, as with any allergy, this is genetically determined. No? First, you have the predisposition, nasa genes natin. A lot of times, so I'd say 75% of the time. Now, ibig sabihin, may tendency ka na, so baka hindi mo maiwasan yun dahil meron yung nanay, tatay mo na ipasa sa'yo. So, however, may mga studies rin naman that show that there are some parang tendencies na baka less ang expression ng allergy na yon kapag na-expose ka early in life. Now, if you have an allergy, established allergy already, so ang key pa rin natin is to prevent exposure. So, kung talagang hindi mo mailalayo or hindi mo pamimigay yung pet dog or cat, siguro at the very least, nasa iba silang room or outdoors kung pwede ang sitwasyon. No?
Now this time of year, allergic rhinitis is so common. When we return, we'll talk about how to treat allergic rhinitis. Your health is our mission. This is Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. There are several ways to treat allergic rhinitis, and these include trigger avoidance, even medication, as well as even home remedies. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where your care always comes first. Treatment for allergic rhinitis depends on how severe your symptoms are and how much they're affecting your day-to-day activities. Dr. Mari, what are some of the more common medications available to treat or control allergic rhinitis?
From vitamins, supplements, to the over-the-counter anti-allergy medications, or what we know as the antihistamines. The decongestant, usually what you take for flu, which can help you also if you're very congested. But, you know, I have nothing against this if you want to try it once in a while for your allergic rhinitis. But if you find that you're using it all the time, then maybe this is not the right medication for you. There are other medications that your doctor can give if you have symptoms all the time. It's not good to take these over-the-counter medications every day for a month, 2 months, a year. So you have to see your doctor already.
Now, Dr. Joni, when it comes to treatment, is it okay to try over-the-counter medications to control my allergic rhinitis? If my friend or my neighbor takes this medication for their allergic rhinitis, it may work for me as well. What's your advice on this?
Depends on what it is, no? Kasi when we say over-the-counter, honestly, the antihistamines, I think they should be prescribed with a prescription, but you know, here, alam naman natin it's not so strict. So basically, it can be over the counter. So the pure antihistamines, the ones that don't make you fall asleep, they're part of the treatment of our allergic rhinitis. Now, it will depend on the severity, no? Ano ba ang effect sa'yo ng rhinitis mo? Is it really super bad? Then you have to go and talk to your doctor, because the doctor can prescribe more than the antihistamines. So, meron tayong mga sprays para sa nose. For long term, hindi na yan ang ginagamit natin. Meron na tayong mga nasal steroid. And these are the most efficacious treatment for mga ganung klaseng rhinitis na talagang mahirap, matagal na.
Now let's talk about home remedies. Now, home remedies may be effective up to a certain extent, and it all depends on how severe your allergies can be. Now, we'll start first with Dr. Mari. What are some home remedies that our viewers can try if they do have allergic rhinitis symptoms?
One home remedy that you can try is washing the nose. Okay, but just remember, there is a specific kind of fluid that you need to wash the nose that will not irritate or even damage your nose. So a home remedy is 1 liter of purified or distilled water, pwede ring pre-boiled tap, but not straight from the tap. And then 2 teaspoonfuls of non-iodized salt. So remember, it has to be non-iodized. Hindi pwede yung regular table salt. And then with 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, and then you have to use it within 24 hours. You cannot use it for longer than that, because then there will be already bacterial growth there. Okay, and that is something that you can do, a home remedy to clean your nose and to relieve the congestion.
Now, Dr. Joni, any tips or home remedies, home solutions that you could suggest for our viewers?
You must keep your home relatively, if you can, not dust mite free. We can never do that, but less dust mites in the area. So, like she mentioned, the washing in hot water of your beddings, no, and maybe you ought to not put carpets anymore, kasi they will be dust gatherers, no. So, don't give it a chance to settle anywhere.
We hope you found our discussion today helpful. Thank you very much to ENT Head and Neck Surgeon Dr. Maria Lourdes Enicilia and allergist Dr. Fatima Joanna Santos Ocampo. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this has been Medtalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.